All right. We are live. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the ANC 1B June Public Safety Committee meeting. We appreciate folks being on. Just going to briefly read out the agenda and then we can do our roll call. Obviously we'll do our roll call first, then we'll hear from MPD. It looks like we have Lieutenant Herring on the line to speak with us today. And then we're going to discuss some neighborhood issues. There's been an illegal street performer on Ninth Street that a lot of neighbors have been reaching out about. Sounds like there's a growing encampment near 7th and T that we should discuss briefly. And then we'll talk about Julius's and the committee's safe passage resolution, um, talking about expanding safe passage to elementary schools. Then the fifth item is a resolution related to rec centers. I had sent in some testimony to I think it was the Public Safety Committee, this was when the youth curfew was up for a vote, but basically calling for rec centers to be open later, to be open for youth as a safe and welcoming space for them. And I really I want ANC 1B to take a position on this because it does matter, and we do have Banneker Recreation Center so close by in our commission area. So I think this is something worth advocating for in a resolution. And then yeah, we'll finish with community announcements. Great. Well, I'll do the roll call. Committee member Duhan, are you present?
I am present.
Committee member Gall,
I am absolutely present.
great. And committee member Nakapan Funjaforn. Unfortunately, he told me he's at what did he say? An event for his niece. So his niece's graduation. So he said he would try to hop on if he has a moment, but he might not be able to make it. Committee member Trebet, are you present? Present. And then I think
You
committee
said
member
Leah
Claire
Trebet
Constantine.
is on? She's on?
I don't think she's on.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, unfortunately. So I haven't seen her in a meeting or two, so I'll have to reach out, see if there's anything going on, whether she can still be part of the committee. Because I was hoping that she could work with Julius on the resolution, but unfortunately that has not been possible. Great. Well then I'm gonna promote Lieutenant Herring to talk. Are you able to speak?
Can you folks hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, folks. Yes, Lieutenant Herring here, PSA 305, which is a huge portion of ANC 1B as I look at the map next to my desk here. I'm just going to go over a couple of items from the that have occurred since the last meeting. Let's see here. There was a robbery back on this is going to be actually a closed case. Um, Robbery back on May 30th. Two juveniles were taken into custody. I guess the complainant flagged down the National Guard in this particular case. This event took place at Sherman and Euclid, Northwest. Um, I'm sorry, this is non-chronological. I apologize for that. Um, Back on the 29th, May 29th at 13th of Florida, there's going to be another robbery. Approximately 8 suspects dressed in dark clothing, wearing masks, demanded property from the complainant. One of the suspects eventually reached into the complainant's pocket and stole an iPhone. The phone was then returned. I guess the looks like the suspects then ran down the street, came back, gave the phone back to the complainant. In that case, there was an attempt robbery, 982 Florida Avenue Northwest, back on May the 27th. Suspect approached the two complainants, demanded property. After he didn't receive any of the property, the complainants refused to give him any property. He threw a plate of food at the complainants and then ran off. Um, there's a robbery back on a couple of days ago, actually, on the 6th of June, 967 Florida. The suspect approached the complainant, assaulted him, then I stole his wallet as well as cash from the complainant. There's another robbery back on May 27th, in 2100 block of Flagler Place, Northwest. The suspects in this case are described as black male, 17 to 25 years of age, 5'9", 140 pounds, black clothes. This was actually an attempt. I apologize if I didn't say that. The suspects, excuse me, the complainant fled when the suspects demanded his property. There's another robbery, U Street in Vermont, also on the 27th of May. Two suspects, described only as black males. They were armed with armed with a knife. They demanded the complainant's phone and cash. Excuse me. They demanded his phone and then cash at $165 to an unknown account or unspecified account before fleeing. There was a robbery in 1000 block of Hughes and Union Street on the 1st of June. Four suspects, no usable lookout. They assaulted the complainant and robbed her of a Kate Spade bag containing various personal items. There was a armed robbery on the 1st of June. Suspect can be described as a black male, short hair, stocky, 5'10", 5'11", gray hoodie. Robbed the complainant of jewelry and an Apple Watch at gunpoint. And then back in May 30th, 1823 9th Street, there's an assault with intent to rob. Six suspects pushed the complainant from a scooter, then attempted to take his wallet. He was able to flee. Suspects are last seen in that case. And then there was a carjacking on May 18th in the 1900 block of 9th Street. Individual was assaulted and knocked from his moped before one of the suspects jumped on the moped and fled. At this time, it does not look like the moped has been recovered. However, one of the suspects who assaulted the complainant was taken into custody for the carjacking. That is all I have to report at this time. Anybody on the call have any questions for me?
Just quickly, you said something about there's a robbery at Sherman and Euclid and something about the National Guard. I didn't hear how that was related.
Yes, that was the first one. Or the first one I read off anyhow. Sherman and Euclid, the National Guard was flagged down by the complainant. The National Guard then called, I believe they called the CIC.
Okay.
And make a notification, and then CIC makes a notification to the section units, and we responded out to assist and make the apprehension or take
Got it. But they weren't involved in any way besides notifying the police department.
They may have. It looks like they may have. I can go back and confirm this. They may have stopped the suspects, but let me go back and look at that.
Okay.
Moment.
Hi, Lieutenant.
Hello.
How are
I'm
you
looking that up.
doing?
I'm well.
Um, and I know Julius is probably concerned just as I know we have a few of our citizens who have been concerned, and I know this is a question that we bring up often, and we've been bringing this up since last year of September. But I want to know specifically, has there been a change in what the National Guard is doing on the streets of Washington, D.C., that you can report out on? In regards to, are are they making citizens arrest? Are they making any type of going on people's property, doing things that are not really under the purview of what they are traditionally sworn to do in regards to policing, other than walking up and down the street, being a visible force. And I'm only saying this out of concern because I did see a video where three National Guardsmen had went on a woman's property and looked as though they were attempting to arrest her. And I'm just asking, has something changed in the dynamics as to what the National Guard is offering to the city?
Um, so as far as I know, while they are, because I know that they are considered police because they have been assaulted, and we have been directed to make arrests for for assault on a police officer when they are assaulted. Um, Beyond that, I'm not aware of what their stance may have, how their stance may have changed. I know they are out there, various spots throughout the district, throughout the leave it. I'll just leave it at the third district. In the third district, walking throughout various spots, not just the U Street corridor, but they're out on Seventh Street, North Capitol. I've seen them out on New York Avenue, providing high visibility. Other than that, I'm not aware of anything that may have changed in their what their responsibilities are. Um,
Following up on that,
I'm sorry.
I was in Noma the other day, and the National Guard appeared to arrest someone who was throwing rocks at people. So
Okay.
it does seem like uh, they are actively enforcing the law or
What
detaining people.
I do know that if they do
Yeah,
see a crime,
yeah.
several times, if they do see a crime, they do engage. They have stopped people, but once again, as far as processing the arrest, presenting the case to
Mhm.
attorneys, that's going to be on us. That's going to be on the Metropolitan Police Department. They
So would they
will.
generally bring someone
They
to?
have in
Yeah.
the past
Hmm.
um, stopped individuals, detained them until MPD gets there. And it's still the policy, as far as I know, that changed DC Council. Any federal, and I believe the National Guard are considered federal, if they're on scene, and especially if they participate in the arrest, we're supposed to list them in the arrest report or that they were on scene.
Well, my
In the arrest
question,
report.
Lieutenant, was basically pertaining to accessing people's private properties, and
Okay.
then also, um, you know, engaging into pursuing people, and then also taking it upon themselves to initiate a pursuit or initiate a way in which they're going up to a citizen who's not throwing rocks, who's just minding their business, through whatever profiling or whatever, are they authorized to do that? Have you known, do you know that that is something that they are, have been given authority to do? That's what I want to know. I
I
mean,
I am not aware of that. For the clear, if you want further clarification, you can reach out to the public information officer. Whenever you're ready to take down a number, I can give it to you.
oh,
And
I know all the particulars. I'm just
okay,
asking you that for this particular setting. I can. I
Well,
can
what do you understand about the particulars then, since you know about the particulars?
I know everybody in PIO. I know
Okay.
everybody from MPD all up as well as the chief. I speak to them regularly. I'm
Okay.
just asking you this question personally.
Okay. Well, what do
Um,
you understand to be their expanded role or non-expanded role, or
well, I'm
what their
asking,
responsibilities
well,
are?
the question I'm asking you is, have you heard of anything through the channels of MPD, whether or not there has been any changes?
I
And
have not heard any
okay, and
changes.
I'm asking that for this particular forum only. I can expand on it in other forums, but I'm asking you in regards to this particular forum that we're in right now.
I'm not aware of anything expanding that they had, that they're. I'm not aware of anything expansion of their role.
Okay,
Got it.
I'm finished with my question. I know Francois was adding in his, but
No, I mean, I don't know if Lieutenant Herring can answer this, but Karen, maybe you've heard more. I was curious. I know that there's been turnover in the violence interruption programming in Ward 1, and that Reverend Judy is no longer in charge. She's no longer the um, liaison, I believe is the correct word. Uh, so I'm curious if we know why that decision was made. And I know there's a new organization called NARC, um, which is taking over.
I mean, as with any contracts,
Mhm.
you would go through the main source would be um, going through the deputy mayor's office of public safety and justice in order to know how contracts were landed. You can every one of these organizations are nonprofit organizations, so they can bid on a contract and not win it, or they can be released from a contract because
Mhm.
of the maybe that they are not meeting the benchmarks that the contract um, has asked for them to meet. So
Mhm.
that's basically the way most of the contracts work. And renewing contracts is something that is based on whether or not they are meeting the criteria. That's basically what it is. And it's not a hiring and firing thing. Within their organization, they could restructure. That happens
Mhm.
often, especially in nonprofits. And then also, if they don't have funding, that would definitely be a very big component as to why most nonprofits restructure and change their staff. That's the first level. The second would be whether or not they are achieving the milestones that are requested in the various contracts. So I would go and speak. Well, my first thing that I would tell you is to speak directly with our deputy mayor's office, public safety and justice, to see if that's the reason. But you could also go directly to the source themselves. I'm sure you have Reverend Judy's telephone number, and you can
Mhm.
ask her directly, and she probably
Yeah.
will let you know if she chooses to disclose that information.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I should give her a call, just to understand what happened and what the new landscape looks like. Thanks for the recommendations. I'm curious, it sounds like you haven't heard anything directly.
It wasn't on my list of things to ask. There's a lot of different organizations that I work with in that under the violence interruptions programming, so I did not specifically ask about theirs.
Okay. Got it. Well, then the other issues I wanted to bring up while we have Lieutenant Herring on with us,
Hey,
yeah, is there's been an illegal street performer on Ninth Street that's playing music very loud until 3 a.m. generally on Saturdays and Sundays, and it's been a you know it's been a big issue for folks just because they can't fall asleep, their kids can't fall asleep. And so, I reached out to the commander about this, and it sounds like it's a very unfortunate situation with DC's bureaucracy where DLCP is supposed to enforce the law that requires permits for amplified sound in public spaces, but that the enforcement division for noise violations has not been funded, so they are just not doing any enforcement. I was wondering if you have any insights into whether you all have been alerted to this problem and are sort of looking out for it, because even if we can't um, you know, force the person to stop, I think it would be helpful just to ask them to stop, explain to them the repercussions and the fact that, they could be violating the law.
What block on Ninth Street are you referring to?
1900 block of
I,
Ninth Street.
I imagine you were talking about the 1900 block of Ninth Street.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
Presume.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's right at the
1909.
corner at Ninth and T, the northeast corner.
And I guess this would be the in the overnight hours on I guess Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or we
It
talk.
seems like it's happening on Sundays a lot and then also Saturday. I don't know
Okay.
why. That's when the guy likes to come out and play, I think.
What is he doing? What type of music is he performing?
So I think he has a large speaker set up, which I'm not sure what type of music he's playing, but he just has a very large speaker that he's blasting. And then he also appears to have a saxophone. Um, and I think, I don't want to speak for the neighbors who are there because they're hearing this much more directly than I am. I've just seen a video or two. But it seems like, definitely during those late night hours when you get past 10 p.m. and then past midnight and then to 2, 3 a.m. Um, it seems like that's what's really, really bothering people
Is he
and
the
the
guy with
biggest
the
concern.
gray vest that with the sleeveless
Hmm.
vest that plays
Hmm.
the saxophone? I'm just trying to figure out
Yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
guy it is.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know because I haven't actually seen a picture of him. I think I just saw him sort of in a video, but it was not easy to tell. But I'll take a look back at it. Because yeah, I mean, it would be nice if we could just talk with him and see
Yeah,
if he
because
would
there's a
stop.
guy that's playing the saxophone. He actually has his. I don't know if it's the same guy. He has the name of his company on the back of his vest, but I don't.
Huh.
It may not be him. It may. I don't. I'm not going to make any
Yeah.
assumptions because this is my first time really hearing about this personally.
Hmm.
Um, I haven't gotten that information from anyone
Hmm.
through any of the channels that
Interesting. Yeah.
report back and forth, and the block captains haven't said a word about it. So
Huh.
I'm curious about this. That's the reason why I'm asking
Yeah.
more information.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. Uh, I can send you the video that I got. Um, let's see here. Yeah. I'll send you the video and then yeah, I mean it would be great if,
Well,
uh,
one of the things, here's my, I know this used to be a combined committee with community engagement and public safety. Um,
mhm,
I conversations and communications is one of the ideal ways of dealing with people when you have these circumstances.
I
So it's a
agree.
matter of communicating directly to the person,
Yeah.
not in an
Yeah.
antagonistic way, but to see if there is any way in which he could either lower his service if he's performing for people as they're passing by, just to or whatever it is, just talking
Hmm.
to people. And this is what I've been having the block captains do when they run into things, and they've been having a pretty good success rate with engaging
Yeah.
in that respect. So, I
Yeah.
guess the
Yeah.
more information that I would know, I could probably see what we can do to help alleviate it from an actual citizen point of view
Hmm.
before making MPD come and try to do anything specifically, because most people who perform, if they're artists, they're they're going to give you a little pushback on that. So I would like to look, see if we can engage him as an artist, because people who perform, they can do either improv, they can do either music, they can do whatever that they do to attract attention. We just need
Mm.
to make sure that we honor them as a person first, and then let them know how they are hindering the neighborhood, um, that's the first approach. And if they
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
doing something that is um, causing harm to people's lives, that's the second way, right, Lieutenant? That's when you really
Yes.
want MPD involved, right?
Yeah, but in the meantime, you said the intersection of you say Ninth and U, or did you say Ninth and T?
He said
Ninth and
T.
T. It's right near
Ninth and T.
Soast. It seems like they
Okay.
might be playing for the line.
Okay, so he's playing for tips and he has a lot of attention apparently.
Yeah, though like I said, I haven't seen it firsthand, so I don't want to give you guys bad information. But that's what it seems like based off the reports I've gotten.
Okay.
Okay. And it's not part of a establishment.
No, I talked to the owner of Soast, and he's not affiliated with the guy at all.
Okay. Okay. So I mean, I again, some dialogue. I'm sure the MPD they're good at
Yeah,
de-escalation, and I'm sure
yeah,
they'll find some kind of way. But street
yeah,
performance is not a violation. It's just the amplified sound that's the violation. And
yes,
so,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you have people who tend to carry those little Bose speakers and Bose speakers, whatever you call them,
Mm,
around all the time. And
mm.
I really don't. How have they been enforcing that, Lieutenant?
Well, I know way in the way back, when I first came on about 20 years ago, someone from special operations was supposed to come out with the noise meter, uh, do a test, so on and so forth. Um, and then it would proceed from there, in reference to the being too loud. This could be a situation where it's considered a disorderly, obviously, a disorderly crime if people are being prevented from sleeping, enjoying their day, or enjoying their night, however you want to phrase it. This could fall under a disorderly charge, I suppose. But once again, obviously, as mentioned, might be best to kind of just approach them, talk about maybe the concerns of the community,
Yeah,
and handle it that way. Maybe amenable to turn down amplification, and he may do it just as well as he's doing it right now,
yeah,
with a lower amplification. But once again, we're not gonna know until we try to talk to him.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's fair. And like I do think that generally talking to people about these problems is a great first approach, especially with noise issues. And I know that that was something the commander had actually said he was going to have his the nightlife team do was just try to talk to the performer to see if he'd be amenable to turning it down or turning it off past a certain hour. So yeah, I'm certainly in support of that. And I don't know. It is a difficult situation, I think, for people to, feel comfortable to approach someone on the street and ask them to stop doing what they're doing. But, I do think, yeah, potentially if I'm ever out there and I'm actually seeing the noise, I would be happy to try to talk to him and just get to know him and see what's going on. Uh, so I don't know if that's recommended or not, but it could be
Well, if
helpful.
he's working for tips, Francois, he's definitely he's engaging with people. So that's number one. And number two, that means that he is evidently receptive because he's playing to the crowd. So the if the crowd is responding to him and giving him tips, then he
Hmm.
has a audience. So what making sure that he lowers the sound would be the first thing, and just saying, hey, we love this, but we also have other people who may not be enjoying your music as much as you are. I mean, as much as everyone out here is.
Hmm.
But if you could lower it down just a bit, because we have young kids just trying to rest and people in general that is trying to rest. And 9 times out of 10, you probably will get a positive response. It's always
Yeah.
about communication and de escalating from that level. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's totally fair. And I know. if I was living right there and I was hearing it, that's what I would attempt to do. But as someone who's not there, I can't do that. But I'll see. Maybe I'll be out there and I'll get a text from someone and I can just go out there and see whether that is the case, whether he is playing for tips.
Is
Because
it
I'm
in your
actually not.
SMD? Is it in your SMD?
It is. It is.
Okay, well then that's under your purview to go out there and look. That's your job.
Yeah, yeah.
You're the
Look,
first one.
I'm gonna try some. I'm usually sleeping at 2 a.m.
Well, look, and if it hasn't disturbed you, but the thing is
Yeah,
this:
yeah.
the recording is important.
Sure,
Um,
yeah.
going
Yeah.
through going through the levels of trying to just make sure you de-escalate from a positive point of view. You know,
Mhm.
a human being, and see what it is that you can do from there. That's
Yeah.
my first.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
advice. I know
Yeah.
that's the commander's advice. I'm sure that's what he's given to all the resources who are out there. And I know I know that the nightlife officers are very good at making sure that they work with the community and de-escalation first, and then they'll
Yes.
then they'll take other means if it's necessary. However, I would expect them to try to communicate with the person first. And so hopefully that gets resolved. What are we going to track this in a couple of weeks or a couple of days? Or wait until that happens again? How are you going to track this, Francois? Can you give the community some feedback on that?
Yeah, I mean, I have my contacts throughout the neighborhood, so I'm gonna keep talking to them and then ask them to reach out to me if they hear the noise again. And then also, I'll be following up with MPD and with some of, uh, Lieutenant Murphy, I think is in the, or sorry, Captain Murphy is in the
That's
area.
Captain Murphy, right?
Captain Murphy. And actually, I was recently at a party in a backyard where there was a band playing, and MPD did actually show up. But thankfully, I was able to talk with some of the folks who I've met on this call, and the person who's living at the house was able to speak with them, and I think it worked out really well because the band stopped playing basically at 10 o'clock, um, and they were able to turn the noise down some. And I think it was a good compromise. So it all worked out. And I think it's better when MPD approaches the noise situations, not from a sort of, you know, we're going to go in there and arrest someone, um, and we're going to, come in hot. But when they come in, can we talk about this? Can we find a way to make sure that, folks in the neighborhood are being respected and come to a good agreement on the noise where, the law is being followed and folks are still able to enjoy living in a city.
Yeah,
So
I mean
I do.
it's part of neighborhood life.
Yep.
Please feel
Yeah.
free to make sure that you CC me on these communications so that I can add it to my tracking. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. I see Jean Hamza in the audience has her hand up. Hey, Jean, did you want to weigh in on the street performer?
I do.
Yeah.
Um, Street performers, buskers are probably the most unrepresented group of people, even in an industry where musicians are pretty, pretty underrepresented. So
Mhm.
agree with a lot of what Karen has said. At the same time, there are laws, and there's the quiet time from 10 p.m. till 7 a.m. Somebody that's got amplified music, that's absolute. I mean, they're breaking multiple laws. I mean, I'm not going to dig into it all, but it's law.
Yeah.
And it's unconscionable and it's rude. And they want I understand why they're there, but you'll see most street buskers and people at metro stops or whatever, during the day and at happy hour or rush hour when people are getting on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can appreciate that there's a line there, but that doesn't give him license or her license to disrupt a community. So, yes, absolutely reach out to this individual, communicate with them, but I think there's like $1,000 fine. That is not chump change, and that's hard to make from a line. So
Yeah.
I would
Well,
really
I don't
like
know if it's possible to get that fine enforced.
try to
We'll
educate
try.
the
Yeah.
individual
Educating
about
those.
that. That's the key is like
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
are the laws. We support you, but yeah, time's
Yeah.
up. And maybe go to the metro, but still after 10 p.m., you cannot have amplified music outside unless you've got some kind of permission from the city or whatever. And I can't speak
Yes.
to what it
Yeah.
is on weekends. Weekends it might be a little later. I don't know. But I just there's reasonableness to be had on both sides here.
Yeah.
That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the comment. I definitely, yeah, I think that that's important, and we'll try to do some more communication. Both, if MPD is seeing this, I would love for them to stop and say hi and just, let them know. But also, I'll try to be out there. Hopefully, some of the neighbors can be out there and see if they can interact with the individual. Soest, which is the business there, I would like them to step up to the plate as well and try to talk with him. So we'll see if we can make the situation better for folks. I did want to
Well,
talk
Sosa
also.
is probably not trying to make it associated with their business so they won't be getting reprimanded because people try
Yeah,
to layer it, and I'm sure they don't want to get involved in that.
yeah, totally. I did want to briefly mention that it seems like there's a growing encampment near 7th and T. A lot of drug deals going on. Seems like, it's much worse than it has been in the past. I know that that area has been, a hotspot for a very long time. So I did want to just flag that for Lieutenant Herring and see if there's anything, that you've heard, Lieutenant Herring, and what MPD's response is and whether, what other DC agencies' response needs to be here.
We
I'm not.
can I
Oh,
excuse me,
go
Lieutenant and
ahead.
Francois. We've
Yeah.
discussed this for our 7th and T task force. This
Yeah, I
area,
know, I know.
and it's something that
Mhm.
we had the commander on. We had everyone, all of the
That's
agencies
great.
on the call to discuss this particular issue. But Lieutenant Herring, I want to hear what you have to say. I just want to let you know that this is not
Yeah,
something that's unnoticed.
totally. And I do think that that is the main venue to address this. I don't think this committee is in a better position than the task force. But yeah, I am curious what you have to say, Lieutenant Herring, with regards to the issue. And, I would hope to bring some more messages back to constituents.
I know that when I sat in for the commander, it was about a month or so ago on the task force, the 7th T task force. Um, that was the various activities out there at 7th and T were were people were made it known that they were not satisfied or happy about things going on at 7th and T. I know there was another encampment a little further to the west, excuse me, a little further to
Mhm.
the east and south last week that was cleared out. Um, I will reach out to the commander um, and see and talk to him about 7th and T. Other than that, I'm sorry, I don't have anything to add at this time.
If it was from last week, the last week's clearing is because of what we did as the actions under the task force, um, and what we still have it as an ongoing observation on how to do some clearances with that. So we do have agencies involved with making some of that activity dissipate. However, we're working with the various agencies. If there is an actual individual that is who may be homeless, which we haven't seen, but
Mm.
we see some additional other activities around that area that does not mandate that that area is an actual encampment, but an actual just posting up zone. So we're working on this from the task force point, and that's and anybody who's interested in participating in the discussion and bringing that, they can meet with us. We meet on the first Thursday of every month at 2 o'clock, and we have all of our DC agencies involved. And if you're interested, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll make sure that you can get an invite.
And
I really
just let me clarification. We're not talking about, because I know for a while there, or a while back, there was one. I guess it would be considered an encampment more on Florida Avenue, right there at the bus stop, heading eastbound on Florida. At the bus stop right there at uh, Seventh and Florida. We're not talking about that one. We're actually talking. You're actually referring to Seventh and T, correct?
yeah.
Okay.
Well,
But
yeah, this is different.
Okay.
Lieutenant, we need to I know, even though that was for 7th and T, one of the things right here at the Reeve Center, there is a consistency of the blankets and everything. We need to make sure that someone has that on their radar, because I ride down it often, the street often, and right at the Reeve Center, you see it's like the enclosure at the Reeve Center. Um, I have not seen anyone put any work into that area,
Mm.
in regards to notifying the proper people. The 7th and T stuff, we have an actual task force for that. Um, the the uh, the 14th Street corridor, specifically at 14th and U, around the Reeve Center, we need to have more oversight on that from MPD.
Well, I'm
Um,
sorry. Specifically, Reef Center. What are we talking? What are you at the Reef Center? What is
there's an enclosure, an encampment enclosure. There's an encampment there,
Okay.
and if you any you can smell it and see it, and it's not even unknown.
Okay.
Anytime you ride by there, if you walk by there, you'll see it. All the blankets, probably 20 blankets and everything layered up there. We need to make sure that the proper services are provided. I've seen it there without a person there, so I know that there's obviously an individual and around at some particular point. And this is right at the Reeve Center. It's
Hmm.
and it's right where the post office used to be.
Okay. Yep.
So, okay.
Okay.
So I just need to make sure that that's taken care of. I brought it up in our T Street Task Force meeting, but I really want to make sure that MPD, since they have boots on the ground, is giving us some feedback on that consistently. That's all. Thank you.
Okay.
Great. Well, thanks so much for sharing, Karen, Lieutenant Herring, and I'm glad to hear the task force has been focused on it because I've been getting a lot of emails from folks. I last question on this topic, but I know there used to be the police stand with lights and a camera at 7th and T. Is there any thought to bringing that back to this corner?
You mean a
I
trolley?
can inquire with the commander.
Hmm.
Those those move around
I know. Yeah.
for whatever reason.
I know Karen was a
Uh,
big reason why one got put at 7th and T originally.
Right.
um,
But
I'm
he
sorry.
moved it to R Street, then he moved it back up to near Howard Hospital. It moves
Hmm.
around based on the activity in the area.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
And so Lieutenant Herring, I don't know, and actually you can actually go online to see where they're actually at. There's I don't know why is I'm drawing a blank right now, but there's a camera location that app that they have online that allow you to know where the trolleys are as well as the posted cameras. And we're trying to get an actual permanent post right there at 7th and T though. And so what one of the part of the things that we work with the task force is getting the trees pruned in order to get a permanently posted camera up that way. But funding is going to be part of the way of getting that done. But we've been pursuing that for quite some time. So
Mm.
let's see how that works out.
And I'm not 100% sure, but I thought there was a because I've had to pull footage for an investigation in the past. I thought there was a permanent
At
camera.
6 and T, it is. It's
Yeah. I thought it was actually at, I thought it was at Seventh and T, or maybe at maybe it was on Georgia Avenue and T,
Well,
Georgia
I
and
really wanted it at right
Florida.
at Eighth and T,
But
more
I
in
think there is
between.
a permanent camera up there because once again, I have pulled camera footage for an investigation in the past.
That's on Florida, right? Probably on the Florida one. I mean,
Um,
there's two of them in that area, right in that little vicinity. But what we're trying to do, is get one a little bit closer to the Eighth and T area too, so they can be in the center of the block, right there at Cleveland Elementary, so that we can have more, so there's no really no real hiding spaces for the nefarious activities that go on in that area. So we just want to make sure that we can stay astute to whatever the citizens are requesting, and especially if they notice stuff. The main thing is, Francois, is that we often tell people, if you notice stuff that's happening in the alleys,
Mm,
in the and there's a lot of just known activity. To see
hmm
something, say something, call 50411 to you can text it. It's a 24-hour texting. You can do it anonymously. We want to make sure that everybody does everything that they can to report
mm,
out this information. And um and I and I do try to work with the ANCs that work with me, and to make sure that they let me know so that we can keep this
mm,
tracking system up so we don't get it randomly. But
mm.
if you don't report it out, and you just hold it to yourself and report it whenever you feel like it, there's really not going to be a huge follow through until you all want to do that. But hey, that's everybody has to work together at some point.
True, 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 true. What is the number 50411? That's you can text that number or
You can text it, and you can request a report number back from it.
okay, interesting. Great. Well, I do want Julius to have a chance to share out the latest version of his resolution on safe passage while we're all together. I know it's 7:54 right now, so Julius, why don't you share your screen and we can take a look through? um, yeah, and provide some feedback. I think my goal would be to vote on this resolution at our next committee meeting in July. The ANC is going to be off in August, so we're not going to meet in August. But then we could pick it back up in September. So potentially we could vote on it as a committee in July, and then we could vote on it as an ANC commission in September.
Sounds like a plan. I just requested to share my
Oh yeah,
screen.
of course.
Okay, so for those of you, I'm not sure who has already seen this, who hasn't, who was at the last meeting, but it is sorry, that's not right. My internet is pretty bad right now, so I don't know why it's bugging out.
Hmm. All good.
Okay. Anyway, this is still mostly the same language and format as it was in the version as it was in the version I presented at the May Public Safety Committee meeting. The big change was I added an additional, based on the feedback from that one, an additional resolve clause that the city also evaluates the kind of effectiveness of the current safe passage program. Specifically when it comes to the ambassadors performing their duties, making sure that that they're actually present and um, actively engaged with the students they're supposed to be ferrying from their homes to the schools. This was based on our conversation with the student. This I can't remember exactly when it was, maybe February, We had a student from the Columbia Heights Education Campus come and talk about the Safe Passage program, and one of her main concerns was that the ambassadors were, so not all of them, but some of them were fairly checked out and on their phones, not really doing anything for the
Mhm.
students. She didn't feel especially seen. Um, I'm happy happy to add some more to this resolve clause, make it a little stronger. Also happy to change anything else that people think would be uh, you know things merits review or amendments. But yeah, are there any questions? Again, if just to
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I have questions, Julius, only because um, I I think the last conversation that we had on this was to have full clarity on compensation and the exact job description of each
Mhm.
one of the Safe Passage ambassadors and whether or not they are being compensated for all of the different t- things that is requested um, under these various resolutions. Is that part of the job description? That was the last question that I left on the table for this committee to sort of have some awareness of and to do some deep diving into that, because there we may have an idea here of what we would like in an ideal fashion, but it's one is just the scope of work that they're contracted to do. Are they financially supported to do these things? And if they aren't, what is the ANC going to add to the pot in order to ensure that they are compensated to carry out the duties of the additional duties that are not added onto their job descriptions. That's where we were left at with the last time. So how did your research go in regards to that? Because I know that was part of the committee's work from February, when we had that discussion the first time.
I am not sure, to be completely honest, where what the compensation scheme for safe passage ambassadors is. I would imagine, though, that the given my understanding of the program, it's fairly important that they are present and actively there for students, ferrying them again from um, their homes, or basically ferrying them to school, making sure they're not getting in trouble. I think that was the concern, was that from the student, was that they were not fulfilling, that they were not doing that, that essentially they were a bystander, not engaging at all with the students. And that falls below the barrier of their the kind of the minimum requirements of their job. The rest of this passage was, again, the majority of this resolution was asking the city to investigate um, whether this program could be expanded to elementary school students, because right now it is only available to middle and high school students. And based on the research I did, it seems like elementary school students face many of the same obstacles that make safe that middle school students and high school students face, that make safe passage a good and effective program for them, mainly being they still have to travel fairly long distances from from their homes to schools, and those routes go through high traffic areas with perhaps like other illicit activities, things that you would just, want some kind of supervisor there for, um, you know, to, just help students get to school.
Right, and
Um,
I'm and that wasn't the question of the viability of having safe passage is definitely something that I know that we had all agreed on, but that was the the actual program of having that work is one thing, but that's where we were left at from the last time in February when we had this discussion. We had agreed to all of the different angles of making sure that it actually is a program that is going to work for our elementary school students, but it was making sure that the people who are stationed to fulfill the role will have what it is that they need in order to fulfill it, as opposed to us having we can have a list of expectations, but we need to make sure that it's mirrored with what it is that they will fulfill that actual role with compensation, because that's what the last person who came on that was representing, and she was actually a partner doing that for the community, for the city. um, they were talking about that particular angle. So we didn't get those numbers back from Jasmine, did we?
Yeah, I tried following up, but I didn't hear anything back. So that was one of
I
the
al-
things I'm thinking we should include in the resolution is just there just needs to be more transparency in terms of data from student surveys, data on how many reports the ambassadors are filing, and then also it could exist, but I haven't been able to find it. But yeah, just what is their scope of work? What is their training? And what is, how much, and Julius did include this, but what would it cost to expand Safe Passage to elementary schools, at least some of them?
And
Do you
to
think it,
get the
yeah,
services that is required. I mean,
sure.
because in order to, as with any job, you have to make sure you're compensating anyone. So in order to get it, the return on the investment, you have to make sure that you are compensating people for whatever it is that they're performing. So that full scope of things was basically what was asked in February, and we were supposed to get information from the deputy mayor's office about public safety and justice about that. And I personally hadn't seen anything. In order for us to move forward with what the ANC can, write up, we can write up what we would like. But the thing that was the only gap, Julius, that was happening in February, because pretty much you have everything that
yeah,
we were looking at in February in regards to the scope of the resolution, but to fulfill it all the way to make sure that it's a community benefit, we need to make sure that you actually have the capital, the human capital, in place properly, in order to
yeah.
make sure that happens. That was my only thing that I could add to it, because everything pretty much looks similar to what we saw in February. I don't, that's the only thing that I would add.
I can, yeah, put that a little more explicitly. Just, again, asking when I'm asking asking the city to evaluate what the cost of expanding this program is, put something, also about, asking for more clarity on what the current cost and scope of the program is, because it seems like that is somewhat opaque. Um, I should also mention, I think this February meeting might have been the one I was absent from. There's one meeting I missed this year, and because I don't remember being in any meeting where there was an actual ambassador from the Safe Passage program. The only one I was at, maybe this was actually in January, was the one where we had the student from the Columbia
Yeah, I
Heights
think you
Education
maybe
Camp.
you unfortunately missed the one with Jasmine Banab from the Deputy Mayor's Office for Public Safety and Justice. And then there was
Yeah,
also a representative of the community-based organization for Columbia Heights, who that would be, she's, actually really involved. She's actually has work, she's hiring the ambassadors, I believe, and administering and managing them. So I'll reach back out to Jasmine to see if maybe you could talk with her more about it. Um,
yeah. Because I wrote all this fairly recent, like, I wrote all this in early May, so those conversations from February weren't really, uh,
yeah.
yeah, front of mind for me. Just for sake of being candid.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, I think, in terms of the last clause about program evaluation, I think we can get a little more specific, but it is, the data on student surveys should just be easily available, I think, to anybody who wants to see it, not just upon request, but they should start adding it to the website. Um,
Yeah.
and then, you know, clear understanding of which organizations are responsible for which areas, which let's try to do some research to see if we can figure it out ourselves. But if not, that would just be helpful information for them to make available. And then, um, yeah, I mean, I do think this, Jasmine mentioned they have to file out incident reports when they see something happening, either, a crime committed in the area or an incident with a student. And so I think it would be helpful to have more understanding of these incident reports, how many of them are there. Um, but I do think, yeah, like once again, the thrust of this is less, it's more focused on the elementary school side of things than it is on um,
Yeah.
program evaluation for safe passers. That's part of this, and I think we do want to advocate for it. But it's also focusing in on elementary schools to say, is there a way to expand this program in a cost-effective manner that's going to benefit younger students?
Yeah. That is the kind of meat
Yeah.
of this resolution. And again, based on
Yeah.
the when it was proposed to me, that was like the most important thing that I think it
Mhm.
was the committee person Trebet was kind of the
Mhm.
lead on this. And granted, I haven't seen her in a little bit, so I don't know if those things have changed, but that was the main
Yeah.
concern or the biggest um,
Yeah.
point of all this was to get this, some sense of if this
Mhm.
could be expanded to elementary schools.
And speaking to Karen's point about the expectations for the Safe Passage ambassadors, we heard from Johnny Bailey from HIPS the other day about how, this connects back to the earlier part of our meeting, but there was a lot of problems at 7th and T with folks who were hanging out there and either taking drugs or selling drugs, or urinating or defecating in the area. And that's a big problem because we have, not only is it just a big problem anywhere in a public space, but we have, school right across the street. And so they actually had someone go out there and talk with the individuals, explain to them, the issues and the fact there was a school and the community was concerned about it. And I think that was effective in helping alleviate the situation, or at least, folks moved away from the school so they weren't right next to the kids. And so I do think, and he was saying how, having someone out there in a vest who does have some sort of position of authority or is there in an official capacity, that can help navigate some of those situations is helpful. And so I think if we want safe
Yeah.
passage ambassadors to be doing more of that, that might be a new expectation for them, which they should be compensated for. But that is something that should be explored.
The in
Yeah.
regards to when for people who are substance abuse users, I the criteria for the safe passage program for anyone who is working with children, there's a different threshold in regards to background checks
Sure.
and involvement with who is actually engaging with the young people, and that also is the same thing that you have to take into consideration when you deal with anyone from the ages of from preschool into high school. You there's a serious process in which you have to bring people in who are qualified through the background. So they can't really engage with children unless they meet that criteria. And there you just can't have random people do that. So you have to, once they go through the background checks, once they most people who go through these processes, they they have a compensation plan for people who
Hmm.
are engaged with children. That so that's the reason why we have to make sure that anybody who's working with our scholars, that they receive the proper funding, So that's the reason why I added that. We said that in February. I know that you missed that, Julius, but it is a strong um, outlier when it comes to this particular programming. And that's also through testimony, what people are constantly talking about this whenever they're doing any of the work. They want to make sure that that these programs are properly funded. So what the community wants, that is one of those the things that they want in order to get quality people doing the actual work. So I just want to make sure that you list that on there properly, if you can. Thank you.
Yeah, I can add something, clause related to that. We're getting good people and making sure that we're doing our due diligence with who the ambassadors actually are.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, the last thing I wanted to talk about tonight, unless there's anything else on safe passage, is just this recreation center's resolution. I just have like a very short sort of outline, which I can briefly share, but I'll send out a longer version of it at some point in the next month, and we can all take a look, and then talk more about it in July. But it is, yeah, it's based off of a lot of our conversations. Though, like I said, there's a lot more that I want to flesh out here. Um, let's see. Okay. Yeah. Here we go. So, yeah, basically just laying out that, the youth takeovers events that DC has seen, I think have called a lot of attention to you know, what are the supports for young people? How are young people socializing? How can we support, pro-social socializing for young people? Because we do want them to be together in person. But also, how can we avoid some of the negative consequences of these youth takeovers? Because we have seen, violent altercations and destruction of property and dangers to the young people and the general public. And so, I was doing some research, and it's interesting. The National Park Service used to hold Summer in the Park events, which I didn't realize, where they had a concert in Meridian Hill that hosted 20,000 people. And so, you know, I want I would like the city to do more work to figure out what what are young people seeking out in terms of spaces to hang out and socialize, and activities that don't exist currently. But I do think a concert and concerts are a great place to start. So yeah, I put that in there in the whereas clause, um, included that we don't have a lot of data on, the people who are attending these events, the young people, and why they're going there, and whether there is an alternative to going there, whether they don't see there being an alternative to doing a youth takeover event. And then, yeah, basically the specific requests that I brainstormed so far, and this is by no means a finalized or exhaustive list, but keeping recreation centers open later, allowing them to be walk-ins. So, young people should be able to walk into a recreation center and not have to sign up for a class weeks in advance or schedule something. Increasing the cadence of late night hype events, which I think they only have maybe one in Ward 1 every summer, which just isn't enough to deal with the demand for these events. There are a lot of people showing up to them, so we need more of those. Working with MPS to organize free concerts in parks that are aimed at, youth audiences. And then just more programs and activities at the recreation centers. We heard from the student leader, the student council president at Cardozo, like we were mentioning, and she was saying how um, she was saying that a lot of students, including herself, barely know that the recreation centers exist, let alone where they are and what programs they offer. So I do think we need more outreach to youth about these spaces if we're going to activate them. And I this is all very tough because it feels like the city has had a lot of time to brainstorm plans for the summer for how to engage youth, and it feels like a lot of that time has been wasted. And there's a lot of folks on both sides of this debate about whether there should be a youth curfew, um, who all think that we need to do more work to support our youth. But it does not seem like anything has actually been done to prepare for the summer. So, yeah, I put together this resolution just as a way of, ANC 1B adding its voice to provide more specific and concrete ideas to whoever is the next mayor and the next council person representing Ward 1, that these are the types of things that we think are good ideas worth exploring.
Well, one of my things in regards to ANC 1B, it has a lot of different spaces that they can open up, not
Mm-hmm.
just the recreation center,
Hmm.
for the timelines in which the young people in our neighborhoods and visiting neighborhoods are interested in gathering.
Hmm.
As they gather, we need to make sure that they're safe and it's under adult supervision and
Hmm.
that it is what they want. And so, listening to
Yeah,
the young people who are the actual active participants, they,
totally.
they, this is something that they should always have a voice. And I say this often, they should have a voice at any of these discussions so that you can hear from them as to what it is that they want, and so that we as the adults can facilitate that. The resources dedicated to ensuring that is around in this area. We have a lot of we have several, we have three in the ANC, I mean in the 1B area. We have what, three recreation centers. We have
Hmm.
Harrison, I'm
Yeah.
Gerard Street. We have we have shoot, we have several, probably four. We have several recreation centers. We have
Hmm.
various high schools that has gyms and auditoriums. We have big, large halls that can be utilized that for young people to gather. We still have the vacant Reeve Center that hasn't been utilized, where we could have
Yeah.
our young people a huge gathering spot that they could gather in on. Um, so we have the resources here in the area. The question is, we just need to have the adults to supervise these excursions whenever they decide they want to gather, and make it a fun programming supervised space for them. They're learning from the adults that gather in the area how to have fun. This is who they're learning from. These are their examples. So the thing is to show them other ways to have fun, that they can be civically involved, they can have good fun that is
Yeah.
not breaking the law, but they can have the spaces in order to have fun. Um, we can't we can't make them have the same type of fun we had when we were young, because fun changes. So
I agree.
what we need to do is listen to them, but also make sure that we have those safe spaces for them, and the safe spaces are here. And I have not seen anyone say, oh, we're going to open up this location and this location. So if they don't want recreation centers, we have this location. I've given you just 5 different locations already. And I've been on these calls and listened repeatedly and said the same thing over and over, like a broken record, until nobody still hasn't acted on that. So again, we need to have our young people at the table. We need to have them telling us specifically what they like to do. Um,
Yep.
and then also we need to just open up the locations so we can facilitate that happening. And we do have in this ANC the funds to take care of them for the summer in these various spots. So it needs to we need to make sure that that money needs to be allocated for that, and that we're real
Yeah.
specific. Writing up a resolution is one way, but just write it up as though it's an invoice to a location so we can get this done. That's my that's how you resolve things, by actually taking action. So
Mm.
so that's my weigh in on that.
Yeah. Yeah, all good points. I'll think about that over the next month. And yeah, I'll be in touch with the draft and we can talk more about it. But I totally agree. I remember watching a clip of a student who was testifying to the DC Council about the curfew and brought up some very good points about, I think Baltimore had opened their rec centers till 11, and the council used to have a youth advisory committee or some such body. So I think having youth involved with government to provide recommendations and feedback and to, yeah, like just like you said, Karen, ideas that adults can help facilitate. I think
But
that's
Francois, the youth that's involved should be the youth who are interested in doing it, who's the actual influencers, those who are promoting these gatherings, those who are the actual people who go. I noticed that a lot of people are talking to young people who've never even heard of them, who never been to one, who has absolutely no idea what's going on. They hear about it, but they're not part of the entire process. you the engagement, we talked about
Mhm.
communication earlier. The engagement has to happen with the young people who are actually participating. You get what I'm saying? It's like, why would I
Yeah.
talk to you
Yeah,
about rocks and you're not interested in rocks or stamps, you're interested in something else? I mean, it's you got people who go to clubs and then you got people who don't go to clubs. I mean, you need to make sure that it's clear what's actually happening, that you're dealing with the actual patrons of these locations, of
yeah,
this you know, that's
yeah,
that's the way that you can start the conversation.
yeah, yeah. I think that is a very good point. It would be, yeah, it would be a win if someone, a council member, ANC, or someone could talk with one of the people who's who's organizing some of the events and maybe work with them on a different type of event that would be safer and would still be a good time, but wouldn't involve uh, yeah, any illegal activities or
Well,
take
I
up
can assure you that
public space that aren't being facilitated by, you know.
they're well-known individuals. They're
Hmm.
not unknown. They
Okay,
are
I don't know
well-known
them.
individuals, and they this is not people. It's not like, oh my goodness, how can I find them? They're well-known. You can easily locate these folk. It's a
Oh,
matter of, just like we was talking about the saxophonist, talking to people.
I will ask around. I do not know the individuals. I don't know anybody who knows the young people organizing the events, but if you do, I would love to I would love to chat with them. All right. Well, um, last thing is just community announcements. Karen, I know you were mentioning there is, a 3D meeting on the last Thursday of the month. So I'm hoping to be able to attend that one this month.
Yes, sir. There is the 3D CAC meeting is held unless it's a holiday, and that includes religious holidays and national holidays. Unless there's a holiday, we will reschedule it to another date. But for this particular month, for the month of June, it will be on our last Thursday of the month, which will
Hmm.
be June the 25th at 7 p.m. at the 3rd
Hmm.
District Metropolitan Police Department station at 1620 V Street Northwest. And everyone is welcome. And we also we have a hybrid offering, which it's
Hmm.
all you have to do is go to www.3dcac.org, and you can register by clicking the registration button to register for all of the meetings as they come along each month, and then also subscribe to the newsletter so that you can stay abreast of what we are discussing in these meetings. And that's it. And of course, we always have our full MPD staff there at the meetings. We had a very robust discussion last month about the same subject of our youth gatherings and all of the legislation pertaining to it, as well as any of the incidents that happened on U Street. Um, we we consistently have great discussions, as you know, and it's
Yeah.
always a pleasure to have everyone in the community come, not only when you have an issue, but just in general to be supportive
Mm,
of the public safety efforts. Thank you.
totally. Great. Great. Well, yeah, I'm Thursday. Let's see. That's going to be okay. Thursday. Unfortunately, I think I will be out of town for my dad's 70th birthday. I just realized, but
Well, send happy early birthday greetings
I
from
will. I will. And
3DCAC.
maybe, yeah, definitely though, I think July. I will be I'm gonna target July. Um,
Well, one of the things that when we talk, and even though I know you're ANC representative, we do measure the ANC's SMDs in regards to how they participate in public safety by how their representatives show up at the meetings. That's one of our measurement processes on saying, well, how does this SMD work? And we have over 250 ANCs in under the jurisdiction of the third district. So we, what's their engagement like? How they're working with us? What are they doing public safety wise? In regards to the commission in itself, you know, um, I'm actively involved on this particular commissions as in a couple of others. But I just want you to know that that's definitely, and that's, we flagged you the last time for your participation, as you already know, because you were doing such a great job. But not showing up at those meetings definitely gives you some demerits, dude.
well, I hear you and I appreciated the shout out. And I'm gonna do what I can. I'm gonna do what I can, Karen.
Your dad's birthday is a good excuse, though.
I will say that one is yeah, I'm surprising him, so it'll be a good time. But yeah, I appreciate the nudge, and I will do my best to make it out there, and maybe I'll be able to join virtually for part of the meeting. So we'll see.
Well, we one of the things that we try to do is let people know exactly how to rate their ANCs and how they participate. I'm serious. This is not even
Yeah,
this is a
yeah.
serious thing, because ANCs often say that they are concerned about public safety, but one of the ways that you can measure how they're concerned is participating in the offerings such as the 3D CAC, which is for the citizens of the third district. And if you fall in that purview, what have you done? What have you contributed? What are you doing in regards to the commissions? These things are the measurements that we use when we have these discussions. So I'm happy to always see you when you show up. Thank you so much.
Of course, of course. All right, everyone, have a lovely evening. I will talk to you all soon.
Well, you have the
All
blessed
right,
evening
bye.
too. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.